How many of you like deadlines? You do? Okay, one person, two people, three, four. If you like deadlines, that's really helpful. Now, there are two kinds of deadlines, maybe more than two, but I hate deadlines. One of the reasons I love being a writer is I love that I don't have to get up and be at a 9-to-5 job all the time, be on somebody else's deadlines for all the deadlines they set up. I love the freedom of other people not telling me what a deadline is. So, there are self-imposed deadlines, and then there's all the rest. Now sometimes there's all the rest that you can self-impose on yourself. Just recently, May 2nd, I submitted to Writer's Digest writing competition. Did anybody else submit to it? The deadline was May 2nd. You can actually pay more, and they have an extended deadline if you want to pay a little further. But one way that, if you do like deadlines, whether you like deadlines or not, this is a great magazine. Poets and Writers does the best job of writing contests, and it's fabulous. And you know, if you've already written a book, if you've already got poetry, if you've already got short stories, articles sitting around, this is the best source. And you can even get a lot of these online, but in the back of every issue, they always have all of the different deadlines. And these are all, what I like about this source too, because there are other sources, you can Google writing contests, but you will spend a lot of time doing research that it's not worth it, where you got to pay $25 to submit a poem, and the winning prize is $30. Okay. What they do through here is they screen it. So if you're going to win $1,000 or more on every one of these contests, that's not bad to me. You know, that would be pretty nice. So this is a really great resource. But I submitted a poem. In the very end, if you'd like me to read it, I will read it. It's about my frustration with vehicles. In many parts of my life, I live in a small town where I could ride my bike almost everywhere I went, including Gainesville, Florida. Go Gators. But you can't do that in Jacksonville. You know, my little phrase here in Jacksonville is, my husband and I would say this all the time, well, I'm going to run over here and do this or that. How long does it take? We live in St. Johns County, down in Jolington Creek. How long is it going to take, honey? Oh, about an hour. About an hour. It takes about an hour to do anything. About an hour to run to the grocery store. About an hour to do... Anyway, my poem is about my frustration with suburbia and how we're building our cities here in this country. But so writing contests are one way to have a deadline. When Greg came up, he gave a deadline for his book. Did you give a deadline for your book?
December.
December. Kind of December-ish.
December 31st, worst case scenario.
31st, okay, that works. That's probably what the date is if we give that. Now, I'm not saying that deadlines can't be changed. I had a goal, I reset my goal this year. I wanted to have my ebook and self-published book done by the first quarter, end of first quarter, March 31st. But I realized that I was able to write the book, but then I realized that I was about 35% complete because it needed a lot of editing. So I've got 140,000 words, all in one big long document, all linked up with my headers and titles, and says what I want to say, but I got to go clean it up, do transitions, take out the things that needs cleanup. Anyway, I changed the deadline. How many of you here have a writing deadline right now by date that you already have in your mind? 3 people. You said you like deadlines.
I need deadlines.
You need one. Okay.
I signed up for writing, workshops and things like that, so it forces me to produce something.
Okay. And writers groups are great for that too, because if you can come every month, at least you're going to get your 2 pages double spaced done for writers group, right? It doesn't matter what it takes to create that deadline. But so when I said there are self-imposed deadlines, and then the rest of the deadlines. So when you're working for a company and you've got to get something done, you just have to get it done, and somehow it magically gets done because you have to stop doing everything else, and that deadline is magical, miraculous. It's everything it needs to be. However, for many writers, including myself, when we have self-imposed deadlines, not really letting anybody else down, I can bump it out another month. And what are we doing? We're losing our lives. We're losing that desire to get our message out. We are depriving our waiting readers. There's a lot of ways to look at this. Self-imposed. Gosh, look at your readers. They're very sad.
I have to write that one down.
You know, have you ever written something and somebody comes back to you, whether it was a letter, we don't even write letters anymore, right? We write emails or Facebook messages or something. But have you ever written something for somebody and they came back to you and said, do you know what that meant to me? And you know what that feeling is? Or, I mean, if you've already published and if you've done book signings and you've got these strangers walking up to you going, I loved your first book. Good, I can't wait to get the next one because I want to read it on the beach. One of my dreams is to just be like traveling abroad. I love to go to tropical islands, Hawaii, the Caribbean. Oh my God. My dream is to show up in a foreign country and be walking on the beach, see someone with my book. I don't even care if they know I'm there. I just want to see them reading my book. That's one of my, although, you know, now with Kindles.
You won't see it.
You won't be able to see it, yeah.
Okay, anyway. So writing competitions, showing up at clubs, signing up for a class, you've got to have a deadline, because if you don't, it will just, you will think you're making progress, but you really aren't. Now, most of us have some good writing habits. If we love to write, we probably have at least one good habit. Now, at the end of last year, as Greg said in my intro, I spent way too much, I realized last year I spent way too much time researching. My favorite program for making lists is a program called List Pro. It's not on my thing there, but List Pro. Love this program. You can create your own individualized fields, and I track all kinds of stuff. I track green companies, I track tropical countries, I follow different people on Twitter that do tropical designs, green design, I track architects, nonprofits that do good for green, and so all these things are kind of incorporated in my first book, but I literally researched for an entire year. Now, it's not all lost, because I've got so much new information about what all these companies and nonprofits are doing. So it's not time lost, but I should have been writing all that time too. So at the end of last year, I always set New Year's resolutions. Anybody else here set New Year's resolutions?
I quit.
You quit? What was yours this year, Greg?
To have my book done by July 1st.
All right. So my goal was, I said, you know what? I'm not writing enough. I am going to write. Now, a lot of writers will say you should write at least 750 to 1,000 words a day. I said, I'm going to pick 1,000. There's even a little website, 1,000 words a day. There's another website, 750wordsaday.com, and you can go in there and share your stories and do all kinds of stuff. I'm not doing it for any of those websites or to post it anywhere. I wanted to get my 1,000 words a day done on my book, because I knew if I wrote a minimum of 1,000 words a day for 90 days straight, I would have at least 90,000 words, and that would meet my goal to get my 100,000 word book. And the result of that is that I actually ended up with 140,000 words. Because many days, once I got in the flow, I just had to force myself to get in the flow. So anyway, that's what I did. So I've established this new good writing habit this year. It's not one that I had last year. So 3 things there. My deadline is, now, if you didn't come into this room with a deadline, but you would like to commit here and now, this is a writing sermon. If you would like to commit to a deadline, because if you do have a work in progress, maybe you want to say, you know what, I know I can have this done, at least a good solid draft, in 90 days or 120 days. Maybe your ebook isn't actually like uploaded yet, but your full complete draft ready to go to some professional editor. Think about your deadline and what you've got going there. If you want to say, I want to have a deadline, think of that real quick. And I also want to know, what is your best writing habit? And then there's a third section here, my friends and family know. Now, if any of you have worked full-time, or know, has anybody here ever known anybody who worked full-time?
There's more than one job.
It's the tragedy of life, right?
94 hours a week count?
Counts. When somebody has a particular job, there's something that the family members know about that person, right? If your spouse is a doctor, you know you're not going to call her or him when they're in surgery. You just know that, right? Or if your spouse has a job where my husband's in meetings all day long. We both work from home. It's fantastic. But I know when he's got a headset on his head, I don't go interrupt him. I know this about him because of his commitment to be a leader at IBM. And I will not disturb his meetings. So what I want to ask you is, right now, what do your friends and family know about you as a writer? Now, my family knows that I've been writing. They know I taught writing for many years. They know I did writing in my work. They now know I'm working on another book. But what my husband knows, who lives in the same house, he knows that I will not get in bed at night unless I've written my 1,000 words. Will not do it since January 1st of 2011. And I'll tell you that I didn't. I've been up late sometimes, like even past midnight, but it still counts because I didn't go to sleep. But there was one day that I forgot. We went to this conference down in Orlando. We're active in Toastmasters. Went to a conference down in Orlando, and I came back, and I realized, no, I went to sleep. I woke up the next morning. I couldn't believe it. So in those, now it's April. Now it's May. In this 127 days of the year that we're in, I missed that one day in Orlando. I made up for it though, because I still did, on average, more than 1,000 words a day, way more than that. But my husband knows. Do any of your friends and family know something about you as a writer? Now, it might just be that they know that you want to publish, or that you come to writers group.